the bigger and the quality of your network plays a very important role in the type of business and the level of success you want to achieve. Never think the opposite. So the quality of your network really defines the quality of business and success you will achieve. And I knew that I was frustrated somehow because I've always been smart, like one of the best students at school. And my colleagues would always bully me, like, you're very smart, but one day you're gonna work for us. And I see my colleagues, those who were bullying me, they were buying expensive cars, working at banks. And it was the second year already in university, and I didn't even have a job. I didn't have a job, so I was already doing something, but I wouldn't believe that I was at the level of dealing with such big money. So I was like always making sure that I would not get those big deals because my mindset was not trained to deal with that amount of money. And this is something that we also need to learn, that sometimes we want success but we are not ready for the success that we have. I think I learned more skills in being in volunteer work than actually being an entrepreneur, to be honest. Even the skills I'm using as an entrepreneur, like networking, bringing partners, understanding how big companies work, like developing projects in my company. I didn't learn it at school. I learned because I was developing social projects.
Welcome to Rise and Impact podcast, where we celebrate the incredible young people who are changing the world one community at a time. Each episode, I will be interviewing the next generation of change makers just to explore their stories, their insights and achievements. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for you to be notified whenever we release an episode. This is the Rise and Impact podcast, and I'm your host, Elizabeth Chilube. I think now I can actually go back and give evidence that I was actually in Angola and there are active people in Angola. So the very first question, can you tell us about yourself? And then that, because we'll want to understand the Oscar that we know today, and to do that, if you can actually take us back in your early years, maybe if there is an activity or maybe just things that actually contributed, like in your early years, that actually like contributed to the person that you became today.
All right.
It's a long question, but yeah.
Well, it's a really open question. First of all, I also have to thank you for allowing me to do this with you, to share my story, the projects that I'm involved in. And so going back to when I was born, I don't know what happened. Yeah, but actually I think my passion to work for the community started with the education that I had.
Okay.
And I had two different poles in my education. My father was very tough. Like, it was like, actually don't mingle to people, don't mix yourself with people, especially with local culture and tradition. And my mom was very kind. She was the mom for everybody, always embracing me and my friends, incentivizing me to like support people. And I think I got that from my mom. And she was also a very kind person outside. Like if I was always with my mom, going to work with her after school, and coming back, there were always people like saying good things about my mom.
Okay.
And unfortunately, when she passed in 2004, it was tough for me. So I kind of made this commitment to be like my mom, to support people. And even after that, I was having people crossing paths with me on the streets and like giving me money. Because, your mom was so good to me. She did this and she did that. And I was like, wow, mom is a superhero.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to be like my mom. I want to make my mom proud. Whatever she is, I want her to look down on me and say look down at me and say my kid is continuing to do the good work on earth, the good deeds. So I think that's the first thing that really, really shaped this value of mine to help people no matter what. And secondly, it's Christianity.
Okay.
I also joined Christianity. I became a Christian like a few years or 3 years after my mom's death, and because I was also like finding ways to follow the right path. And some people introduced me to Christianity, the whole concept. And one of the things I learned is that we are blessed to be a blessing to other people. I grew up with this mindset, so Christianity really shaped the values that I carry to these days. And one of the strongest lessons that I learned is that I am blessed by God to also be a blessing to other people. So people can pray, but God will always use a person on earth to be a blessing, to be a solution, to be an answer to someone's prayer. So that's the mentality, that's the mindset that I grew up with. And ever since then, I always thought of myself as someone who's somehow privileged to be born in a family I was born in, and to have the resources that I had. And why not supporting others who don't have the same access, who don't have the same resources? So I was always with this in Christianity. And one of the things that that is in my life is that unfortunately I inherited this as a family trait. I speak too much. I speak a lot, like I cannot control myself. So, but as I was reading a lot of books, on different topics, entrepreneurship and self-development, I was talking a lot to my friends and people in my streets, at church, providing insights of the things that I was reading on the books. And I always felt like I should teach more. So I grew up teaching my cousins and my neighborhoods, like teaching the lessons I was learning at school, teaching like always at school. I was the one teaching my classmates, the group studies. And when I started like learning English, I was teaching English lessons to my cousins, because I always thought of me as someone who would share the knowledge with other people. And so with Christianity was the same, like preaching the gospel, but also the lessons that I was learning from those books. I was making sure that I would teach as much people. And I started like thinking of myself as a teacher. My first job was to be a teacher. I was studying programming, and high school that I went through, they invited me to be a teacher. I was sharing my knowledge as a teacher. When I had to stop teaching because the year after I needed to like write my monography, for graduation, focus on that. I don't know the word you use, but it's here in Angola, it's monografia. It's like the research project. I focus on that. So I was one of the best students. I've always been one of the best students. It's either the first, the second, or the third. So I got invited at my university to teach as well, to become a professor, a lecturer. But I didn't want, unfortunately, at that time, because I had an option to come to Luanda, to move to Luanda. It was all this story was back in Cabinda, like the homeland I grew up, my homeland. And
which part of Angola, for those who don't know of which part of Angola is Cabinda?
Cabinda is far north of Angola. If you guys check the Angolan map, you will see there is a province in the shape of a small gun. It's geographically not connected to the rest of Angola. It's separated by River Congo or Zaire, however you call it. It's actually where most of the oil comes from. I grew up in this province up north, like really on top of Angola. Left. Yes, I think it's left. Top left. So that's where I grew up. So I always had this idea of sharing my lessons and blah 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 blah. So 2015, when I moved to Luanda, well, I came here with the dream of becoming a successful entrepreneur.
Oh, really?
So Luanda is like the economic hub, it's the economic center, financial center, administrative center.
Yeah.
Everything is concentrated here in Luanda. Of course, you can be somehow successful if you are living in another province, but if you really, really want to reach higher levels of success, Luanda is the place. So just like any other young person who dreams to become successful, in many cases, we have to move to Luanda. I moved in, and then I started like organizing events. It was both one strategy for me to get to know the market. It was also a strategy for me to like open business for my company, like finding people I could connect with, like strengthening my network of people. So I was organizing a lot of events, inviting speakers, influential people, blah 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 blah, doing this. And it was also a way of me like really continue to share like the lessons that I learned. Of course, I was not as famous or whatever enough to attract as much people to my events. Even today, I don't think I'm that famous.
You are
not
famous.
Even famous.
You are famous, but yeah.
Yeah, so I was inviting those who were already known in the market. So it was like one way for me to connect to them, and it was also a way for me to like sharing the knowledges that they had, or creating platforms for them to like share the knowledges. So I started doing that, and then I started also organizing events in Cabinda. As I said, because I was getting a lot of resources, I was meeting a lot of people, and coming from a province that basically there's not, at that time there were not such events like open workshops, hackathons, and blah 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 blah. I realized like I can also continue to contribute with for my province to continue growing up, to wake up young people to what is happening outside of Cabinda, to the type of knowledge that they should acquire if they wanted to be successful as well. So I was organizing events in Cabinda, and I continued to do that. That's how I somehow managed to also build a strong network of people who get to know me, or who got to know me. And finally, 2017, so 2017, I attended a symposium on capital or human resources, human capital they call it,
in Angola?
in Angola, in Luanda. There was this very powerful woman and very influential. So she's been advocating for human capital, like we should value local people. This is her message. And this time she organized this symposium to talk about it, and I was invited to represent young people from Cabinda. I came, and then I didn't know they organized a competition on entrepreneurship, innovative entrepreneurial ideas. I had a project because at this time I was already an early entrepreneur. I came up with an idea on health sector, and thankfully I won the competition. It was surprising for me because I did it overnight. I pitched the idea. They voted for me for the entrepreneur of the year in the symposium. I was awarded, and this lady came to me and she said, like, I really see you as a very talented person, committed to like empowering the communities and to being a successful entrepreneur. But I think Luanda is very small for you. Angola itself is very small for you. So do you know World Economic Forum? And that's how I was introduced to a very big international community. She introduced me to World Economic Forum because she was also part of World Economic Forum on Africa events. She was taking part, attending events, advocating for human capital in Africa as well. She introduced me to World Economic Forum. I was actually trained to you know, like to know what the World Economic Forum stands for. She made sure that I would know what they do. And then weeks later, she introduced me to Global Shapers. They were having recruitment, and I had this very wonderful interview. I got to realize that many of young people who came from abroad to attend this symposium, they were Global Shapers. So I got to know them, we got to talk, it was a wonderful environment. And then I got selected, it was 2017. And then I became a Global Shaper officially in 2018. And then like I met wonderful people, they inspired me a lot, doing amazing stuff, very professional, successful entrepreneurs in Angola that I wanted to meet. Turns out they were also Global Shapers. Like it shortened my way to them. So I didn't have to fight that much because they were also part of the Global Shapers community here in Luanda. So I became friends with them. I learned a lot. This was a turning point in my life. I can never say how my life would be if I didn't become a Global Shaper. So it was a 360-degree shift in my life. Everything changed about me from that time on, 2017, especially 2018. I started identifying myself as a global citizen rather than just a local citizen. I had access to this very huge international community. I got to know wonderful people, even from Namibia as well. I started like traveling abroad. Before this, Namibia was my home, my second home. I'm sorry for you guys, but South Africa stole me from Namibia. I started going a lot to South Africa to meet a lot of people. I attended my very first World Economic Forum event, 2018. But one of the things so the thing is, Global Shapers community opened the world for me, but I was also invited to become, through Global Shapers, I was also invited to become the NEXT EINSTEIN Forum Ambassador for Angola, which at the time was the biggest youth-led scientific community in Africa.
Really?
Yes, they were advocating for science, mathematics, engineering, arts, areas in Africa. It was a huge platform. I mean, it's still a huge platform. It's part of AIMS, African Institute for Mathematical Science. It's a branch. I was invited. I became their ambassador to Angola 2017 or 18, 19. It's a 2 years role. So I was like advocating for science as well. And then I was again organizing big projects. And to name it Africa Science Week, which is a 7-day, it's a week we are invited to organize a lot of events to advocate for science, mathematics, engineering, arts. And then I was organizing all these events and I was gaining visibility. I was partnering with local ministries, tech companies, scientific labs, and people got to know me as the NEXT EINSTEIN Forum Ambassador to Angola. I was actually doing amazing stuff. I'm saying I was because it's a 2 years mandate. We have to pass forward the torch. So yeah, I was doing a lot of things and alongside with Global Shapers as well. So Global Shapers, we started like delivering a lot of projects at the time on food security, on environment, on education, leadership. It's a very diverse set of projects that we started developing. So all these social initiatives I was involved in, and they continuously shaped my values, the values that I was carrying. The beliefs I had, they started strengthening because I was in contact with different realities, different people, understanding different contexts, understanding that I was more privileged than I thought, and there are a lot of people struggling to get the basic conditions, life conditions, to dream. At least there are
Yeah.
people who are not even dreaming, they're just surviving.
Exactly.
So I was exposed to different realities, different contexts, and it shaped many of my values I'm carrying today, even as an entrepreneur. I didn't say a lot about my entrepreneurial
That's actually,
side.
yeah, I think that's actually
Yeah.
like my follow-up question, because like you are as well so much into you are an entrepreneur. I think that's the very first thing that every person has to know about you. But then like when did you, I think, really started calling yourself, you officially became an entrepreneur? Okay, let me just say, maybe if we ask who is Oscar today, what will you, in terms of your yeah?
Well, this is a very complex question. I think I do a lot of things which somehow should be bad, but I managed to like carry all my eggs in one basket, which is my head and my heart, because I'm passionate about the things that I do. Well, this is the opposite. This goes straight to my father. My father always made sure that I knew where the type of family that I was born in, and especially my grandparents, who they were. So they say that I come from business family. Back in time, my family, they held a lot of coffee fields, and they were trading coffee with white people, colonizer, Portuguese in Angolan context. On my dad's side, they say I'm Belgium. On my mom's side, somehow Portuguese. They did some good work in Angola, and I'm part of this work. So when they moved from their village to the city, they almost lost the plantations and stuff, coffee farms that they had. But my father continuously made sure that I would know where we're coming from. We're coming from a business family. He didn't want us to become entrepreneurs, but he was always emphasizing the fact that we're coming from a business family. So when I was a teenager, I was already sure that I wanted to become an entrepreneur in tech.
Really?
Yeah, I never strayed from my path. I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur in tech because I love computer. And then when I started like the college, as you said, university here in Angola, I was frustrated somehow because I've always been smart, like one of the best students at school. And my colleagues would always bully me, like, you're very smart, but one day you're gonna work for us. And turns out I finished high school and I see my colleagues, those who were bullying me, they were buying expensive cars, working at banks. And it was the second year already.
In
university.
Wow.
And I didn't even have a job. I didn't have a job. And I was deadly afraid that I would end up working for my colleagues, as they said. And I was like, dude, I have to do something. And fortunately, as I was reading a lot of books on entrepreneurship, and my pastor was always making sure that we would be Christians with entrepreneurial mindset. And I was getting a lot of knowledge from these books and from the preachings and blah, blah, blah. And I was going to the streets, as I say, sharing with my friends about the things I was learning. But I started like getting worried, like I have a lot of knowledge, but there's not any physical business that I'm doing. I don't want to be a theoretical person. I want to be a practical person, pragmatic. I'm teaching, but at the same time, people can come and see my company. So I was like, it started like bothering me. And one of my girlfriends, she was like very demanding as well. Like, I'm not going to introduce you to my family if you're not doing anything, because she was also coming from a business family. So her dad was a really, really like great business person. And she was like demanding me, like, like
must do something.
You must do something. You're so smart. Why don't you like do something? You have a lot of ideas. When will you start? She was pushing me to do the things. And then 2000 and what? I think it was 2012. And one of my friends was doing purchasing some things online on Amazon. And then she introduced me to Amazon. And I started like purchasing things for me, clothes, smartphones. It was trending at that time. Everybody wanted to have an iPhone, iPads, were the thing. And I was purchasing things for me. And then my friends would come like, dude, where did you get that? And I was like, I ship it from the US. Where did you buy it? I'm like, I'm going to buy this for you. So people were giving me money, and then I was selling things for them. I would buy things on Amazon, ship it using some platforms out there. Things would get here because at the beginning you get maybe this is a scam, but then it's actually working. So I started like selling electronics, smartphones, laptops, and I was somehow making some money out of it. A lot of money, to be honest. And then ladies, they realized that this dude is shipping things like, they were the ones, like women at my university, they would come and talk to me like, Oscar, I want this phone. And then, why don't you get the blouse? Why don't you get the heels? Why don't you get this? They would request a lot of things, and turns out I was shipping clothes and a lot of things from Amazon, and then I started like shipping films from Alibaba to Angola. And then companies like, I'll do business with you, and then you want a printer or something that it doesn't exist in Angola. So companies started like talking to me like, Oscar, can you get these things? And I remember at this time I was already making about $4,000 per month, which was a lot of money here. And I didn't have a family. I mean, I don't have a family. It was all money for me. And then companies started approaching me like, Oscar, we want to do business with you, but you need to legalize your business.
That's the thing.
And I was writing like huge invoices, like 10,000 US dollars. I was afraid talking to my brother, I'm not comfortable with this money. It's a lot of money for me. I'm not sure. So I was already doing something, but I wouldn't believe that I was at the level of dealing with such big money. So I was like always making sure that I would not get those big deals because my mindset was not trained to deal with that amount of money. And this is something that we also need to learn, that sometimes we want success, but we are not ready for the success that we expect to have. So I was boycotting my own success because I was not ready for that. And then we started facing economic crisis. It was 2013. They prevented us from doing online shoppings and stuff. And it's a whole other topic to discuss, the economy in Angola and how our financial system works. I told you a little bit, So we had a lot of restrictions to do that, and then I found myself not doing business anymore, and I was addicted to having some money. So I invited my friends, those I introduced to the same business. Because
you were still in university?
Sorry?
You were still in university by then?
Yes, I was still in university, and I also introduced a couple of my friends to do this business. They also started like purchasing things for themselves, and then they started like providing for others. We found ourselves in the same situation, not having the chance or the openness to continue doing the business that we started doing. And we talked like, dude, how we go about it.
Exactly.
And then I said like, I'm a software developer, especially web applications. And then there's this dude, he's a good designer, like the best in the province. And then the other guy, he's into networks, like, like computer networks. And the other guy, he's good in finance. And the other guy is like, okay, good just with ideas. So we came together, and then we decided to open our very first company, which was called InoSistem. And InoSistem, like, don't ask me. We went to register the company. The name we took, it was InoSistem. And then there was another company already registered with that name. We suggested like 10 names, all of them were declined. Oh my goodness, we're like, dude, and this lady was like, you really need to leave, And one of our friends, he says, it's like eagle, whatever. Yes, and she checked the system. Add something, and we're like Eagle system. No, there is an Eagle system. Let's just add Eagle InoSistem. Ino stands for innovation. And then she just registered the name. And unfortunately, system with I, not Y, because she couldn't speak English. So we opened that first company. It was a software development small company and network and design and stuff. It was 2015, and then that's the reason why I also moved to Luanda, because I got a job offer in Luanda, but I also understood that the market in Cabinda was not enough. If we wanted a big deals to really make profit, Luanda should be the place for us to run the business. I came to Luanda end of 2015. I started working for a software development company. It was a Portuguese company. And I used this role, I was the manager by the way, to quickly understand the market in Luanda. They trained me a lot, thanks for that. And I made sure that I was also part of the PR team, because I wanted to go around and get to know the companies in Luanda, to get to know the people. So I was very intentional with this mission. And I also decided, well, I want to be a successful entrepreneur, but I need business mentors. So I started attending a lot of events, talks, workshops, to find a business mentor to teach me how to do business in Luanda. But it was also an opportunity for me to connect with a lot of local entrepreneurs, so that because I knew that if you want to do business, the bigger and the quality of your network plays a very important role in the type of business and the level of success you want to achieve. Never think the opposite. So the quality of your network really defines the quality of business and success you will achieve. And I knew that, so I was really squeezing myself in different environment, in different events, high level events. I was very stubborn. I was always in events. And then that's when I started meeting some very resourceful and impactful entrepreneurs that became my business partners. And I started doing this business. Unfortunately, for 2 years I was in this company, but I had to quit because I was growing a lot, and it was not having the success we expected, because I was growing a lot. I was having a lot of opportunities, investors willing to invest in our ideas and projects, but we were not structured. We were not organized. They would listen to my ideas, they would be willing to invest, but coming to us, get to know my other team. I'm not saying they were bad, but they were not enough. We were not enough. We wouldn't translate enough trust and confidence for people to invest their money into our ideas. And one of the challenges is that we were all friends, and we mixed friendship and feelings and emotions. It was a mess. Of course, I used this company to commit as much mistakes as possible, because I knew fail fast, learn early. So that was my approach. It was fail fast, learn earlier. The faster you commit a mistake, the faster you are more likely to learn the lesson that will come with the failure. And I was very comfortable with committing mistakes at that time. Even today, I'm very comfortable committing mistakes. This is something very important for an entrepreneur. And so I was talking to my team, let's do this, we need to grow, blah, 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 blah. But as I said, the speed it was not the same. And then we needed to talk. I think I turned 25 years old, which was a milestone for me. It was like a time for me to stop, reflect, and think about the achievements, the successes that I had, the failures, the struggles, the
Yeah.
achievements, and my way forward to my 30s, which I am right now. So, and I talk to my business partners, like, I don't want to blame you for not achieving the success I want. I don't think it's fair. And I don't want to feel like you guys were the reason why I didn't achieve my full potential in life. So that's when we broke up, we split up. They continue with the company. I was the one who quit, I was the one who left, although they were very kind to allow me to take some projects. We are still friends till today.
The company still exists?
I bought the company last year, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. They're still my friends, like my best friends. We didn't mix the feelings. There was not hard feeling. It was just a consensus. They understood that they needed to leave me.
Yeah.
And then the years that followed, I started like searching for other ideas. I founded like my architecture company with other business partners. I started this marketing agency as well. And I was into some other projects, but they didn't work as well, especially the startups. And yeah, I'm here doing a lot of things. Now I have this marketing agency, which is part of a group of companies that also owns the architecture and interior design firm. I do have a consultancy company. We consult at the government level, but sometimes for companies as well, like medium-sized companies and sometimes big companies. The same company also has is the one actually in charge of the projects, the tech projects that I brought from the company that I quit in 2018. In tourism, I was very into tourism, but unfortunately the pandemic came. So I had to step back a little bit, rethink my strategies. I lost some investors, but yeah, we're still on it. We're still on it. Yeah, and I also needed to learn my lessons. I mean, I'm not perfect, right? I was committing a lot of mistakes as well. I took time to work in some successful startups in Angola because I needed to understand why are they successful and I'm not that much successful. And I also wanted to leave my fingerprints. Yeah. So this is the ideas. Like last year, I was 29 years old. I started like worrying about expanding my portfolio of investments. And then I've been like surveying what type of businesses because I've been into digital space. I wanted to take over one of our family businesses on food, grocery. Unfortunately, my father sold the company. I was very upset at him because I wanted to do something physical. I've been studying logistics and stuff. I want like this headache, stock, process, flow out, trucks. But unfortunately, I didn't get the chance. I'm still trying to see what I can do in food industry, maybe fast food. I don't know. I'm considering fast food business. I have been into fashion. I want to invest in fashion, like Atelier, personalized outfits and clothing. This is something that I'm seeing opportunities, but I'm still like just surveying. I have identified these two. Of course, I'm not gonna spend my whole time on those companies. I just want to invest, provide experience, lessons, knowledge, bring all my resources, my connections to empower the business till it becomes successful and I can make a profit out of that. So I think it's a whole thing. That's why I say this is a very broad question. But for the sake of your time, I think I can stop from here because if I start talking to other companies, we won't finish today.
Now speaking in the context maybe of Angola and like considering the young people within Angola and maybe people that as well look up to you and all that, do you think like anybody, like any young person in Angola can actually become an entrepreneur, like make it in the business world here in Angola?
Anybody who has enough knowledge to be an entrepreneur can be an entrepreneur. This is one thing. But like scaling up a business and not working for anybody, surviving by your companies, we're still taking steps. It's not easy, to be honest. I've been lucky to say, because I don't have a family yet. Let's make it clear. It's different from someone who has a family. I've been able to sacrifice myself, not eating many times because I'm investing in my companies. It doesn't affect anybody but me. That's one thing. If I had a family, probably I would not just depend on my own companies, because we're still at this stage where we need to continue investing in these companies. So living out of your business, it's not easy in Angola, but you can be an entrepreneur. Many of my friends, even those who are succeeding in their businesses and startups, they are now working for big companies because it gives you more confidence, more stability, especially if you want to have a family. So this is one thing that we have to make clear. And sometimes depending on the industry, but then as I say, the quality of your network plays a very important role on the type of business. You can get a 50,000 kwanzas business. Well, that's good if you're like a freelancer, you know. But if you have a structure where you have to pay the rent, the equipment, people, and young people to attract skilled talent and keep this talent in your company, you need to find like really, really good clients who can pay you good money for you to sustain your company. And those are not easy. And for example, for me, in this marketing agency, this is an industry dominated by Portuguese. And it's not easy for you to have a contract with business, like big companies, because they will look at you as an Angolan person. You know, the problem we have in Africa, it's like he's not skilled enough. Even if he's skilled, like comparing him to a Portuguese, I'd rather sign a contract with a Portuguese where I can spend more money, but at least I know the quality is gonna be high and good, and I'm not gonna have a lot of headaches. Rather than just working with an Angolan that still needs to commit a lot of mistakes, learn lessons, and I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to be in Angola we call it kobaya, like the object for you to do your experiments, you know. So this is somehow the mentality. And on our side, as Angolan people is also the same. They would rather, so I was speaking from big companies because they are the ones, like foreign people, they are the ones in charge in management offices. Like for Angolan people, it's also the same. So one thing is, Angolan people, I think the pandemic has accelerated this process of trusting our local labor and the skills, local skills. And as we are facing economic crisis, it's been tough to pay a foreigner to come and work for your company. So now we have to rely on our own and local human capital. This is one thing. We are still learning, but it was not easy for you to trust an Angolan. First of all, because back in time, we didn't have necessary skilled and amount of skilled people to actually deliver. Because Angola was coming from civil war, and before the civil war there was colonization, you know, so very few people actually get to go to university, you know, and acquire necessary skills to be in positions and deliver quality projects. So we wouldn't trust Angolan people. We were like somehow more comfortable with bringing expats or foreigners. So this was the scenario. Even in having a company, we're still struggling with that. So yeah, that's it. And just to finish, I know, as I said, I speak too much, guys. Just to finish with what I'm saying is, looking at the startup scenario, I think this is an African problem, but now we have some countries like Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa, Egypt as well. They are getting a lot of external investment and funds for startup. Now we see millions and millions of dollars pouring into startups, ecosystems on those countries. So in Angola, we still have language barrier. Corruption is an issue as well. Our financial system, people say it's very closed. It's not open to the world somehow. We're facing economic crisis. So investment is not actually coming for startups. You have brilliant ideas, but very few investment. And we know that for a startup to survive, you need investment because you're not making profit yet. And lastly, the whole startup ecosystem is just like warming up, getting ready. I mean, even if you have a brilliant idea, as I said, if you knock some doors, they will be, we don't trust you because we're not used to having local, skilled,
people
and responsible as well. Let's say that a lot of people also committed a lot of mistakes. Those who had the chance to actually prove that we can do that, they were very irresponsible. They would cheat, steal money, and delay in deliveries. It's horrible. Even for me, I stopped working with many young people because they are not responsible enough. They will promise to deliver something today. They will deliver next week Friday. They will not pick up your phone call. You almost die, and you have to like find ways to keep your client engaged, which is not easy. So, and today we lack investment, and as we lack investment, startups are struggling to scale up. Even like to reach the whole Angolan territory, it's you have really good startups that they're struggling to get investment. So what we have is grants or grants from corporate social responsibility of some companies. They would give you what like 5 million kwanzas to say that they're supporting the community, but it's not a money you can use even for 3 months if you have a structure, if you have to pay salaries. So this is what we have. They will take you on stages for you to talk about startup. We call them the stage entrepreneurs. They are always on stage, but when you really go to see what they're doing, it's not that much as we. This is why many of us some has decided to like go and work for some big companies, and many has actually decided to focus on building their own structure rather than going to speak on panels.
Wow. So I think there's still a long way to go for the startup
ecosystem to mature, and especially in terms of investment. I wouldn't blame the investors, but the whole social and economic environment is not fruitful for people to come and invest.
Exactly.
Not forgetting that Angola is very expensive. So
it's one of the most expensive. I think the third to something. Okay, going back to the Global Shapers. So ever since I joined Global Shapers, I think last year, so I've been wanting to just sit with somebody and maybe just tell me like, how has Global Shapers benefited you as an individual, and maybe the doors that it actually like opened for you, and like what is just Global Shapers in general? You are a curator, and
well, I'm the curator. As we call is the leader, the one who ensures the maintenance of the hub. It's a 1-year role. They don't want us to be like African leaders holding the positions for 40 years. It's like learning to share your leadership with others who can also take the spotlight, who can also bring their ideas, fresh ideas, to ensure that the hub continues to grow and to scale, and it's functional in certain ways. So the Global Shapers community is a branch. It's part of the World Economic Forum, which is one of the biggest international organizations It advocates for a better world in different areas. So what World Economic Forum usually does is to invite global leaders into the table, on the table, to discuss the main situations and problems that we are facing as humankind in our planet, and more than just discussing, to find the best solutions, sustainable solutions that can be replicated in different contexts, different countries, different communities, and they advocate for those solutions to be actually implemented, because they will benefit the humankind, they will benefit all of us. This is actually the work that World Economic Forum does. They provide a lot of resources, platforms, reports, information, data. It's all out there. If you do some research, even if you have a project, either as a governor, a politician, entrepreneur, NGO, they provide a lot of information. So understanding that young people are active, they are in this age where they are the ones with energy to drive change and impact. They want to be everywhere. They want to speak up for what they believe in. They want to speak up for their rights. And they are the ones that actually will continue to be living in the planet when the old people go. They created this platform to give voice for us young people to speak. As they are very big, why not creating a space for all these young people to come and speak as one, to advocate for different things? So this is how they created Global Shapers Community 10 years ago, 2011. It's like 12 years almost. So far, we are distributed in communities, as we call them hubs. It's a city that brings together outstanding young people like me and Elizabeth, and you guys watching us. You spending a lot of time listening to me because you want to do something in life and for your community. So you bring out all of us together in hubs, so that we can sit down and talk about the problems that we are facing, the struggles we have, and finding solutions that can be sustainable, replicated, to engage local partners. And if you manage to get international support, it's also an option, because as they see World Economic Forum brand, they know that it's something serious. So there's not a lot of intervention of World Economic Forum, because they believe in us. They provide the platforms, but we are the ones actually running the local hubs. We are the ones responsible for the projects that we want to develop. We are the ones responsible to engage local support, volunteers, NGO, government. Although we don't have political ties, but we need to be as much neutral as possible. We are not activists per se, but we play important role in improving the conditions or the life conditions of people. So this is the Global Shapers. You can check the numbers, otherwise Elizabeth will sleep here. Of how many hubs and people are part of this community. But most likely, if you search in your province, in your country, just write Global Shapers in the name of the city you are, or the city you want to visit. Most likely you're gonna have a hub or shapers on that city. So me as a global shaper, how this has benefited me a lot. I think the biggest achievement that I got or I have in being a global shaper is actually having this platform where I can meet young people and actually drive change. To see people being impacted by the initiatives that we are putting on is because as young people we complain a lot, but very few young people are really stepping out and doing something to drive change. I think this has been the biggest achievement, and this is why I signed up to be a global shaper, to be able to support other people, to share the resources I get as an entrepreneur in whatever place I go, to really get this testimony from people benefiting from our project. So this is the biggest earnings that I have as a global shaper. But apart from this, I've been able to like travel across the world. Back in time, I didn't have this global mindset. I was very local. I was only struggling with what is happening in my country. But now I have a broader perspective that to look at and to really be able to meet people from different countries, trying to solve the same problems that I'm solving locally. It's very how can I say, motivating for you to see that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Because in our local communities, in our provinces or streets or districts, whatever, many times if you want to do something, you have your friends dragging you down, like, you crazy, you're not even in the government. How can you do this? They are very negative, but being able to be in an environment where you have people thinking about the same problem, but developing sustainable solutions. So yeah, I think this is the biggest earnings, like to travel across the world, sometimes freely. World Economic Forums sponsor many trips, like the summits we have. We are able to attend World Economic Forum events. I don't know where and when in my life I would be able to attend a World Economic Forum event. They are very expensive sometimes, or you get invited. But we've been able to attend World Economic Forum events. I've been able to speak in one of the biggest, like the second biggest World Economic Forum event as a local leader, to share my experience with worldwide big leaders. I felt very privileged to be called to speak in one of those panel, and also to like travel to different countries and to meet young people who are very passionate about the things they do. They are successful as entrepreneurs, which some way can also benefit my business. I mean, I've been able to do business in some countries because of Global Shapers. They have introduced me to people that have become my client today. So I'm somehow going international as an entrepreneur. I have clients in South Africa, for example, Tanzania, and some other countries. So it's through Global Shapers. And one of the things that I really love the most about Global Shapers is the fact that it's very easy to connect with each other. It's like having a family everywhere in the world, like Elizabeth here, yeah. So they will show up, they will take you around, they will show you around. Sometimes I travel, I have to be honest, with money to find accommodation, and shepherds are like, dude, don't waste your money, just stay at my place. And I end up not really paying anything. Like for example, when I was in China, shepherds, they were like showing me around. They paid for my accommodation because my card was not working on the ATM. I went, they like did everything, and then I left China. I was like, how much did I really spend in China? So this is the type of bond we create as Global Shapers. But it's not a bond because we are just young people, but because we know that if this person is a global shaper, it means that somehow we share the same beliefs, we share the same values, we share common values. And if we share common values, I think the connection flows naturally, because you don't have to think a lot whether this person is a criminal. It can be, but like at least in front of me, this person is a global shaper.
Exactly.
So it's very easy to connect. So I think today I have family everywhere. I have friends everywhere. I have people to talk to everywhere. It improved a lot my English. The English I'm speaking now improved a lot because of Global Shapers. Now like 50 to 70% of my conversations on WhatsApp and social media, they are in English, because Angola is a Portuguese speaking country.
For how many years have you been speaking English now?
I started learning English when I was 12 years old. but it was not as fluent as it is right now.
And I think you did not have much people to speak to.
Yeah. So Global Shapers is also a platform for me to practice my English. Like going back home, I always have a Global Shaper that has texted me, who's willing to have a phone call, or it's just a cool friend that I can always talk about things in life.
Yeah.
So I think like Global Shapers benefited me a lot. I am very thankful to this community. I don't want to be an alumni anytime soon. I've been talking to them. Don't kick me out of the community. They will not kick me out. They're creating a lot of programs to engage alumni as well. To say alumni because Global Shapers, they get to 19 to 33 years old. I'm already 30.
Yeah.
So it's 3 years to be kicked out of the community. Unfortunately, I'm joking. So I'll become an alumni. Or if you've been in the community for 7 years, then you automatically become an alumni, so that you leave space for fresh blood and fresh ideas to come on board and continue to do the job that probably you started. So yeah, that's Global Shapers community.
I'm actually living the testimony of Global, because when I came to Rwanda, I didn't have any plan. I was like, I'm just coming here, do what I have to do. And I remember there is a hub in Rwanda, and let me tell you, why not reach out to you guys? And you guys have been my guide, my everything, in Rwanda, because I've traveled explore the whole Rwanda actually because of you guys, experienced the people here, attended events, the Global Shaper, the Shapers Talk, and you guys, I actually also went to, was it Zango where we went to?
Yeah, Zango.
Zango 3, Zango
4 almost,
Yeah, and all that.
It's not easy for you to come here if you're a visitor. You need to have a Global Shaper.
Exactly. I'm it's like I've been living in Rwanda for the longest, because wow, it's really good. But then you have been as well with beside Global Shapers and all that. How has maybe volunteerism and your involvement in community work and all that? Do you think it has benefited you, or are there any skills that you acquired actually from your volunteerism?
That's a long story, guys. Long story short, if you're not working, make sure that you join an NGO. It's NGO, right? Because in Portuguese it's ONG. So it's confusing. So make sure that you join an NGO. Of course, an NGO that is trustworthy, credible, and it stands for something that you also stand for, or you would advocate for. You gain a lot of experience, you gain visibility as well, you learn a lot of skills. Make sure that you take the lead, you take responsibility, you can be in front of projects and tasks. That's how you develop skills. There is no other way as a young person. And for example, Shapers Talk, if you facilitate or moderate a panel, actually one of the speakers can just approach you I like the way you organize the event. Are you employed or you are unemployed, and then you get a job? So you gain visibility. Make sure and then you gain visibility not because you are hidden. You gain visibility because you are taking the lead. You want to be in front. You want to be responsible for projects, even though you are not paid, but still you get experience that you put on your CV.
Yeah.
And when you go searching for a job, they will ask for job experience. When people ask for job experience, it's not because they are expecting you to have been employed.
Yeah.
It's just ensuring that you have the necessary skills to face the challenges that this position will bring. It's not actually the company itself, is about the skills. That's one of the reasons why you can see someone who didn't have job experience but was able to get that job because he translated trust, he presented the necessary skills to take the project. Of course, there's some things that we learn in a company, but it's not always about the company. So if you come and say I was leading the finance in this NGO, and you are able to show the type of work you were doing, writing reports, keeping the invoices, the receipts, somehow, I don't know, whatever, budgeting projects. I mean, this is already a work, right? Because we have to understand that, like for me as an entrepreneur, I don't hire employees, I hire solution makers. If you prove me that you can develop a solution for the challenges that we have in the company, I'll hire you. So this is what we learn being volunteers. Even as a business person, I have done a lot of volunteer, non-profitable work to be able to get a profitable work. Like when I started, many of these business mentors and many people I knew, they would like ask me to do things for free. And I needed to do those things for free because I needed to develop a portfolio of projects. So I was doing a lot of things for free. My friends would criticize me like, you're crazy. Why are you there? They're not paying anything. But I always knew that, well, this person cannot pay me money. But if I deliver the project, high quality, sorry, why it's not even muted? I'm sorry for you guys. So if this person is not paying me, but if I deliver a high quality project, this person will be showing, exhibiting the project, and then the next person that will talk to me, I will charge him because I don't have to not charge you, So that's one of the strategies that I also use as an entrepreneur. Even the events I talk about, I was not charging money because I always knew that somehow I would gain visibility, credibility in the market for organizing high quality events. And from that, I was making contacts that now are becoming my clients because they know that this dude was involved in successful projects. Not because they like my companies, but because they know my background. They know where I'm coming from. That's why they're signing deals and big deals with my marketing agency. So it's relatable. If this dude was organizing an event and this event had a good marketing, that's how I got to know the event, right? Because it was making noise. It means that it can also make the same noise with my brand or for my brand. So we have to be very strategic with these things. So I developed a lot of skills, budget, project management. I think I learned more skills in being in volunteer work than actually being an entrepreneur, to be honest. Even the skills I'm using as an entrepreneur, like networking, bringing partners, everything, understanding how big companies work, it's because I was in volunteer service and like developing projects in my company. I didn't learn it at school. I learned because I was developing social projects, networking, team management. And this is one thing that I usually say. If you can manage people without paying money, well, then you will be successful in managing people that you are paying. There's no other way around. It's a fact. Because you're keeping people engaged while you're not paying money. How about paying them money? So I've been successful in my companies in managing my team, having loyal people, because I was able to have loyal people when I was not paying money. Either Global Shapers and some other non-profit organizations that I have been leading to this day. Yeah, so people join, volunteer in NGOs, please.
Wow, that's actually very true, because as well, most of my skills, because most of the things that I know, they are self-taught, and they're actually encouraged by the fact that I was part of volunteer, like I was part of NGOs, like my communication skills like dramatically improved as well, because I wasn't like this, like I think a year back or 2 years back, I wasn't like this. So I really agree with whatever you said.
Yes. Score up.
Okay, speaking of, what do you think are the skill gaps within, like, among the young people in Angola, maybe, or maybe the skills that young people in Angola can actually, like, are kind of lacking, and we should kind of, like, hammer on that, yeah.
I think critical thinking is one of the things, because the education system in Angola is you do or you write exactly as you were taught, as you wrote during the classes. So usually the teachers won't give you space to bring your perspective on a problem. I think this is at the basic, at the core of many problems that we have in Angola. We need to develop critical thinking, not critical like criticizing the government, which is also part of it, but like critical about problems and challenges. Like we always arguing about the solutions or at least the problems that we have, but like finding people with critical mindset, like thinking about the solutions, like breaking down into pieces, finding the causes, and developing the idea of how we get from the problem to the solution, and then sustainability. We lack a lot about critical thinking. Reading, it's also a problem. I don't know if that's an African problem.
I think that's an African
problem. Reading is also a skill. I don't mean like reading books for opening the books and reading. I mean actually the skill of selecting the book that I want to read. It's like researching what exactly I'm looking for, the type of knowledge, how to convert, like how to soak up, like absorb the knowledge, and to turn this knowledge into action or practical or critical thinking. Like it's really a problem. So that's how we develop mindsets and knowledge. Like it's not only reading the books, because many people they read the books, but like see through the lessons. I think this is something that we need as young people as well. We need to read more, and we need to learn how to read and how to get knowledge and from books. Because I even like, let's not like resume in books. I think even from internet, even in my companies, sometimes I have like my employees coming and asking like, boss, how do I do that? And my first question is, have you checked your YouTube? If you try to research on YouTube, on Google, because it's out there. And we are using social media for amusement, for entertainment, but very few people, I don't know, they know, but somehow they're still very lazy to research. And I think this is a problem in Africa. We lack researching skills, and I think this is one thing that we need as a whole, as a continent, if we want to compete with Western countries, Asian countries, because they're strong in research. They spend a lot of time researching.
So much data.
I wonder, like I went to university, even the scientific thesis, whatever, it's not a scientific, like the graduation thesis that I wrote. I didn't go to street to survey the people, to ask questions. Like, even I see the same problem with local startuppers. They are developing startup ideas, but they didn't go to ask people, to research, to collect data. We struggle a lot with data collection. It's not a habit in Africa. And to sit down, not only collecting data, but to think, to relate in data, to study, to as we do, analyze data, and then come up with information and ideas, relying on the data that we collected. So I think this is something that we need as African. If we start like that, I don't think we will have problems with technology. I mean, technology is a consequence for me. Today we can go on YouTube. You can have free online courses for many, for Excel. Back in time, we were spending a lot of money to have an Excel or Microsoft Office. Today is everything on YouTube.
Exactly.
You can get from the basics to the most complex macros and even writing codes for Microsoft. You can find freely on YouTube. But the problem is we don't want to research. We don't want to learn. So I think this is very important for me. I think you guys should think that I would criticize a lot of young people, but I'm really pointing at the center of the problem. We need to develop critical thinking, because if we criticize, then we will seek for knowledge, and then knowledge is on the book, is on internet. If we better seek and acquire knowledge, applicable knowledge, we will thrive as a continent, as a country, as a community, as people.
That's very true. That's very true.
That's me.
Yeah. Okay, another question. Like, when we hear about Angola, I think the first thing that comes on our mind is corruption. Angola is like full of poverty and all that. And so, but like for me, when I came here, it's actually like the opposite. Like when I visited, I didn't expect Luanda to look the way it does, because it's way much better than the way actually people speak about it and all that. So, what do you think? Are the misconceptions
about Angola?
About Angola that you like had?
I was in Zambia
Yeah.
for the first time in January, and they still believe that we are having civil war, and it's a neighborhood country next to Angola. And I don't know, like Namibia probably. But I think like Namibia and Zambia are the countries where you will find a lot of families and immigrants who ran away from civil war.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Angolans. Like I met a lot of Angolan descendants in Zambia, and they get bullied. Like there's a bus picking you and dropping you back to your country, and they're scared to death to come back to Luanda to Angola, because they think we are still facing or going through civil war.
Wow.
Which is not true. Angola is a very peaceful country.
Exactly.
There's not even such thing as tribes fighting against each other. I mean, there is always a little bit of discrimination, but it will never affect the tourist. So Angola is very welcoming. I mean,
Very much. Very
we are very welcoming. She needs to come the next time.
Exactly.
This is just a sneak peek of how welcoming we are.
Okay.
It's very easy for you to mingle, to feel home, even though you don't speak Portuguese, but we will make sure that you feel comfortable, you feel home. We didn't have problems with racism like other countries. Portuguese, they mixed with us. Like me, I'm a Portuguese descendant on my mom's side, and Belgium descendant on my dad's side. So white people, they mixed with black people. So the very first time I started having conversations on racism was when I was in South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is why if you stay with me, I don't know, you've been in Angola, I don't know if someone has ever talked to you about racism. It's not a conversation in Angola. Like literally, you can spend 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, you will never sit down with your friends to talk about racism. Angola is more classist than racist. We have classes, which is natural, when we have different social stratifications. It's normal to happen, having upper class, middle class, and lower class. So people tend to mix themselves because of the class, not because of the skin color.
Yeah.
So that's also one thing good about Angola. If, for example, you're coming from a country struggling with racism, this is also one thing I like about Angola. There are a lot of opportunities. Angola is expensive. I only realized that when I was going to other countries, the people complaining about the prices, and for me, it's always cheap. Like if I go to Namibia was always very, 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 very cheap. South Africa is always no matter what they tell me, for me, South Africa is always cheap. I've traveled to many Southern African countries, even like North or whatever, like Ethiopia and Egypt. Like for me, it's always been Kenya. They're always cheaper because, But for me, the concept of Angola being expensive has to do with some specific things. First of all, if you come with dollars, I don't think Angola will be that much expensive for you, especially Luanda, because it's not the whole Angola. It's the capital city, Luanda. And if you're willing to rent a house, it's gonna be expensive because the real estate industry developed focusing on oil companies. So you build a very beautiful house because you're expecting an oil company to come and rent your house. And oil companies, they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they created this bubble, real estate bubble in situations. So real estate is expensive, but it doesn't mean that you don't have cheaper options. But if you want to be in a very good place with conditions, water, it's gonna be expensive. Food, yes, well, it's expensive in Luanda, but if you go to other provinces, they survive by agriculture and farms. I don't think it should be that much expensive as Luanda. So Luanda, agriculture in Luanda is very poor, so that's why it's expensive in Luanda. We can always rely on natural food in other provinces. Restaurants, our problem as Angolan people is because we were having a lot of money coming into the country because Angola is the second biggest oil producer in Africa. It only stays behind Nigeria. It was the fourth biggest and largest economy in Africa. It was one of the fastest growing economies. So there was a lot of money coming into the country. So we didn't learn the saving culture and habits. So usually Angolan people, and especially in Luanda, people spend a lot of money. Like if I was in good conditions, I would like take her to expensive restaurants. This is the habit we have in Angola. We like showing up, boasting money. This is a problem that we are still facing in Angola. People, they are very boastful.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that you guys are as well known for, because in Namibia, when you speak of an Angolian, it's those people who like spending money.
So we don't save. That's the problem. If people can spend money, of course they will go to fancy places because they want to brag, they want to show that they have money. And then if you have a lot of money being paid, of course things will be expensive because people can pay for those things, for goods and service.
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons why I think Angola, I'm really, really concentrating things to Luanda because I know there are many realities in Angola. We have 18 provinces and I can never speak for other 17 provinces. It's mainly Luanda. But the thing is, Luanda is where the money is. If you come to work in Angola, you'll probably be in Luanda. If you want to have fun, probably Luanda is the best place. If you want to find a husband or a girlfriend, probably Luanda is the place. I'm joking. So it's very concentrated. It's a very centric social system. And I had to move to Luanda, So that's a proof that we need to decentralize the country and the opportunities and services.
Yeah, and I feel like Luanda is so much different from other, we are neighbored, Luanda and Angola, we are neighboring, but we are not similar in so many ways. Whether you look at the infrastructure, it's the roads, the everything, we are so different, the way everything is so organized and everything. And coming here is I'm totally in a different world.
Yeah.
And there are so many people.
Crowded.
There are so many, and the one thing I love as well is there are so many as well transport that you can actually choose from, whether you want to use Okada, the bikes, the buses, the taxis, and all that. It's wow.
So picking up from what you said, we are historically, we shouldn't be different because there was a lot of immigration back in time, Bakongo people, different tribes, especially at the center and south side of Angola. It should be very similar, culturally speaking, and traditionally. It should be the same. So that's the situation by being colonized by different colonizers. So you have Ngangela, Kwanyami people, probably you have also in Namibia. It should be the same tribe, right? But we had different colonizers. You guys were colonized by the Dutch, British, South Africa, who else?
And then the German,
you see. they came with very different culture and approach towards social system. We were colonized by Portuguese mainly, which is very different from German, Dutch, British, and somehow South Africans. So that's the thing. We were like divided by colonizers, and we were made different by colonizers, not because we were different. I think this happened in many like countries, not only in Africa, even in Asia. If we study the history in Asia, we'll find the same problem, like India and Bangladesh and Pakistan. And then you have the colonizers that brought religion, and they split up because of religions as well. They could be similar in terms of tradition, but then in terms of religion, they don't identify. And those religions, they were brought by colonizers, either Christianity, Islam, or whatever type of tradition that we have out there. So that's how we become different. So Portuguese, they were different as well. They were exploring the world, like as I said. But for me, I think Portuguese, they were more concerned in expanding their operations, in trading and stuff, and discovering the world. But I don't think they had this thought of settling.
Oh, okay.
Creating settlements and blah 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 blah. They wanted to like take the things and trade. They were not focused on settling, which I think was different for you guys. Like the colonizers, they really, really wanted to settle.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Build cities, build social system. I don't mean like Portuguese didn't create social system, but I don't think they had this focus. That's my perception. Because when I go to other countries, like the histories I hear is very different. So Portuguese would come here, they would stop by, trade things, they would get married, find prostitutes, slaves, have sex, children, they would go back. Like, because if you look at the Portuguese colonies, it's finishing.
Yeah, it's actually, I think,
it should be different. So I think that's the reason why we are different. Even in terms of architecture, we have Portuguese, and now we have Chinese architectures. You guys have South African, German, Dutch, British architecture. So, and the food as well. We have Portuguese food and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Oscar, for actually agreeing to do this, to do the whole and taking your whole time and coming here and all that. And the other thing as well, allowing me to use your beautiful office for the podcast and for all the love that you guys have been showing me actually here in Luanda. So maybe any last words that will actually maybe specifically to the youth in Angola that want to be productive citizens and want to give back in the community or want to be productive, just to do something productive with their life and all that.
Well, I'm the one to thank you again, Elizabeth. It's been a wonderful conversation. As I said, guys, I speak too much and I love speaking. I hope I'm speaking good things, sharing good things. Well, for young people in Angola in general speaking, I think we need to love our country more than anyone else. It's our country. It only as us. We are the ones to change our country. We can never expect foreign people. Of course, we have wonderful foreign people who are keen to support. Not every foreign people are bad per se. There are a lot of people moving from one country to other country to support, to help them in solving persistent challenges and problems. But we as locals, we are the one to love our country, to love our community, to be willing to find solutions, to drive change, to use our energy as young people, because we have a lot of energy. I mean, we Africans, guys, when I travel abroad, one of the things they wonder about me and many Africans is like, you guys are so energetic because we dance, we speak out loud, we are very active. Youth. So we need to use that energy to also drive change. I know we love dancing. Some people love drinking, going out. but we also need to use this energy to spend sleepless nights thinking about initiatives, about ideas, and don't be negative about the ideas that you come up with. Be positive. Don't stress yourself with your friends or your family dragging you down, saying negativities that you won't get there, you won't do it because this country is just screwed up. We are not the people to change. Don't ever allow those thoughts to take place in your mind. And if it does, reach out to people like Elizabeth, like me. Find global shapers, share your idea, find other NGOs, associations, even at school. Find people who want to do something. Join those people. That's how you will build and come up with impactful ideas, projects, even companies. I mentioned that I started my entrepreneurial journey with my colleagues at university. So this is how, if I was negative thinking about jobs, I started saying I would never be an entrepreneur, perhaps. But I joined the right people. I found the right people. I made sure that I was surrounded by people who had the same energy, who had the same spirit. So this is my advice. It goes either for Angolans and Namibians and Africans in general. This continent will change with us. We have to believe this. At least if it is not going to change completely, let's leave our legacy. We've been studying Nelson Mandela. There are a lot of opportunities for us to be the Nelson Mandela for our people. He started like us, like a young person. Nelson Mandela and many other African leaders, they started like us with these conversations. Why not?
Exactly.
They have become iconic people. Why not us? Why we are not willing to have our names studied in schools? People building foundations with our names because we had so much impact in our society. Why not? So let's think bigger. Let's not be the ones who just criticize. Let's not leave the continent without having our stories being told for doing something impactful for people. We will not be acknowledged because we had a lot of money. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of rich people vanishing in history. Even those people who were rich enough, they remain in history because they drove change. We study Steve Jobs because he disrupted an entire industry. Although he was not at his best behavior, but he did something. He revolutionized a lot of things. That's why we keep talking about Steve Jobs. It's been like 10 years since his death, but we continuously talk about him. So people will not tell your history because you had a lot of money only, because you had impact on people's life, because you came up with a sustainable solution, a sustainable product that impact millions of people. Let's not only chase after money. If I was only chasing after money, I would not be involved in social. I think I'm more involved in more social initiatives than actually profitable initiatives per se. And it has a returning effect on me as well. The universe will bring back the same energy that you're sharing with people.
Exactly.
The more people you help, the more benefits you get. Even if it is just a thank you, it will change your life completely. You go in the streets, you see people you had impact in their lives. As I said, like my mom, people giving me money. And let's not only think about ourselves. How about the next generations? How are we giving this continent to them? If they come, like we've been criticizing our governors, the government, the presidents we met in power, it's our time. We are starting to have children. They will also ask questions. Father, what did you do? Why are we poor? You know, why this problem is still there? And you're telling stories like, oh, this problem is been there for 20 years. They will criticize you as well. How lazy. So guys, let's pass down. Let's give this continent to them. Let's do something that they can get from here and keep moving and having a richer, wealthier and a better continent. Let's think about the next generation. Let's not be selfish.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.